on in the industry at the time. But there was also a need to have someone who could champion social media and take it as their own and kind of be responsible for it and have that on their plate. Now, I'm not saying that every organization and business is able to do this, but it is good to have somebody, as we're going to talk about, who is responsible and feels that responsibility in their daily job tasks. So, when we kind of redid the whole university communications platform, this is what it changed to. There's 4 managers now. There's a manager of print and publications, of digital services, which is our TV show and our digital video here, web management, and now social media. And as you all can see, our idea with this, or not mine, I say our, as in my boss and her bosses, was that social media would be an important piece enough that it fits into the overall marketing and public relations plan for the university. Now, that's where Jonas is going to come in on this, not right now, but when he gets to his presentation, to show you how not only does it fit into public relations, but it is a key part and a huge part of the overall marketing strategy for everything that you're already doing at your businesses and organizations. That's how we see it. We don't think it takes the place of print publications. That may seem like traditional media that some people say is dying, some people say isn't, but it's just as important and it's key to us enough that when we have something that is a goal or a strategy at Murray State or an initiative, maybe it's forward from the president's office or wherever it may be, the 4 of us can sit down with our bosses and say, okay, how does this fit into print? How does this fit into video? How does this fit into social media? How does this fit into web management? So that is how we started this whole idea. And that's where my position came from. And I was lucky enough to be the one to start with this position. And I'll tell you, if you're trying to tackle putting a social media manager in that's never been there, we don't know what we didn't know at the time what we were getting into. I didn't know what all my position was going to encompass. And I'm actually still learning to this day, and it's been 3 years now. So I will share that with you, and I mean that in a good way, because the industry continues to change. There's things we need every day. And so that backs us back up into my responsibilities. I'll go over all these, but I'm going to hit on just a few of these in more detail that are the PR side of it. So, as a social media manager, one of the things that I have to do is I have to monitor all the platforms. Does this sound familiar to you? So, to monitor all the platforms, that can mean a whole lot of different things. One of those things is just to understand the conversations, the tone of things that are going on out there. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. I have to engage and interact. Obviously, that's the part of coming in and knowing what people are talking about, having conversations with them, just engaging with our audiences out there. And then, of course, creating and gathering content. Sometimes it's content that's already created. A lot of the content that I get is from students and staff and faculty on campus that are tweeting things, that are talking about things already. And I'm just getting that information and using it in a different way, or supporting it by throwing it back out there and saying, what great pictures, what great information. You know, sometimes it is coming up with a total social media plan or strategy, which is something that you might sit down with somebody like Jonas and do. Or if you have your internal people that can sit down and make a marketing plan for social media, then this is where that would fall in as well. And then sometimes it's crisis management. This isn't an everyday thing, but it is sometimes something that's extremely important. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail here in just a second too. And then analyze and report outcomes. I won't touch on this anymore, but people forget that I have to have goals and I have to make deadlines and things just the way anybody else does. And so I have to come into my marketing group and say, we hit this change, this performance outcome. I look at a lot of numbers, and I hated numbers in school. I'll tell you, I was not an accounting or math person at all, but when it comes down to analyzing the data that's coming in from the things we're doing on all of our platforms, it's extremely important to me, and I use it in my everyday decisions. In everything that I do, I have to look at what has worked and what hasn't worked. So that comes into play a lot too. Research is a big part of it. We have to know what's on the cutting edge of the industry. We have to understand what platforms are up and coming, what's dying out, what is being used right now and what it's being used for. There's lots of things that we have to read about and understand for people. And governance is another one we're going to hit on too. So I'll just go ahead and move forward. So one of the public relations pieces of this is to monitor the platforms. And you may say, what in the world does that have to do with PR? Here's what it is. We have to be the ears to the university. There are times when something explodes out there, and when I say out there, I mean in the digital realm, that we don't know is a problem yet. And when that happens, we have to learn how to respond to it, physically and digitally, okay? So, I'll give you an example. There was a video that went out about one of our athletes, about something that had happened in the past year, and we didn't realize yet that people were talking so badly about us because of this video until I started seeing it pop up everywhere, all over social media. There were people talking about it, there were people trashing the university, there were donors involved, and it started getting bigger and bigger. I had to watch that swell and know, okay, it's time to respond. We have to respond somehow. And so things like that, I feel like I have a responsibility to be that ear to the ground that knows what people are talking about, what people are making comments on, and what the, maybe not the overall feeling is of our audiences, but a good portion of them at least. So we have to look for trends in that, we have to look for tone, and I also am there to protect my branding. So we as a university are a brand, just like you guys are as a company or organization. So we have to protect our brand, and to do that, we have to know what people are saying and how people are using our brand. We also can look for opportunities. There are lots of viral opportunities, trend opportunities online that we can kind of cling into. And it may not make sense for your company right at this moment, but if you see people talking about a certain subject or a certain topic that you can kind of get in there and get your name out there, that's an opportunity for you that you may not have known about before. So that's how we have to be an ear to the ground to monitor all of the platforms. And then governance. It's hard to see this on here, and I think I zoomed in, yeah. So one of the big things that we're doing lately is, how am I doing on time, Jonas? Okay. One of the big things I've had to focus on lately is governance. And it's not a fun topic of social media. It's something that is usually not talked about a lot. But you all can understand why we have to govern our platforms and our brand a little bit. And so one of the things I've worked on this year, we wrote a social media policy for the university. And I would say that this is so important to every single one of you. If you don't have a social media policy about internally and externally how people are using your name or how your employees are using social media, you need to look at that. You need to have an understanding of where that falls in your company. Because what I found out was after we wrote the social media policy, and it talked about we talked about different things, all the way from what our expectations were of people who were administrators on campus that were using Murray State as a name, so say like the College of Business. Okay, well, I need to know who those admins are that are talking from the voice of the College of Business. Know that they're talking consistently with the branding and the messaging that we're doing, and you guys kind of get the picture. We all need to be on the same page, and we started looking, and there were hundreds of Facebook pages for Murray State and hundreds of Twitter accounts for Murray State, as you can probably imagine. And so from that, I then sat down and wrote out this plan of this is my next year. The next thing was I need everybody on campus to register their social media accounts so we know what's out there representing us. From that point on, there's lots of other stuff involved, but we had to go in, and now what I'm doing is going back and finding pages that are not administered by official Murray State accounts or Murray State people, and if they say Murray State or they have our trademark violation in any way, I'm reporting them. We're getting pages shut down. We're getting Twitter accounts shut down. There's lots of ways that I can go in and make our brand consistent across all of the platforms that we have. This is not a fun part of social media. It's a lot of work. But it's something that's extremely important to me as someone who's protecting our brand and someone who is making sure that we have good PR out there. So you can see there's a lot of other things that fall within that. It includes me being a resource to help our account administrators across campus. It includes a lot of other things. So within that, and if you ever want to talk about this, please feel free to ask me questions later, or whatever question you have about policy. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of resources on how you can change social media within your realm. So governance is a big part of it, and then crisis management is the other. You know, as I talked about, we have to be alert and ready to respond to things. So it's very simple. Make a plan. Who's responsible for your social media? If you don't have a social media marketer right now, who's the person that when a crisis comes up, whether it's a PR crisis or a natural crisis or whatever it may be, that is going to take responsibility for that and respond to people when they start sending you questions or tweeting badly about your company or making Facebook replies that are extremely negative? Who's going to be the one that says, okay, I know what to do, I know what to say? What will they say? And how will they say it? What platforms are they going to say it on? Are you going to already have a way to respond to people ready in your mind or on paper so that when someone starts talking badly about your company, that you know already what the response is? It may be a fill in the blank of different things, you know, different situations, but at least you know how you're going to respond and who's going to do it. It's extremely important. And it's important to us as a university, so I know it has to be important to you all as a company or an organization. And something as simple as these 4 steps of understanding that long before it happens is going to make a huge difference. And real quickly, I'll just say, because I think I'm out of time, but okay, just to touch on this too, I'll tell you, we learned this the hard way. Without going into much detail about what happened, we had a situation a couple years ago that was extremely eye-opening for me as a social media manager. We didn't have a shooter or anything like that, but we had a situation where something was going on campus, and it was a crisis, and we did not know what was going on at the time until I started seeing all of these tweets and Facebook messages come across my screen saying, prayers for Murray State, horrible at Murray State. All these things, so you can imagine through my mind, I'm going through all these situations of what has happened, and I don't know how to respond, and all of a sudden, I had this major responsibility on my shoulders. I felt this huge cloud of responsibility of, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? I don't even know the situation yet. So we had to come back from that, debrief, figure out what we even needed, and from that, we made a plan that I have to be responsible for what goes out immediately, and from that point forth, and I have to be able to monitor and know what people are saying about the situation too, so we can respond as we need to. And it was a hard lesson to learn, and it was a lot of stress for the coming months. What do we do with this? So if you have the opportunity to talk about this now, it's better now than later when it happens, and you've got to make a plan really, really quickly. So that is really why crisis management is a huge part of social media. And I will say, whether you're out there or not, I think you all are probably past the point of knowing you need to be on social media. Whether you're out there or not, people are going to talk about your company. So you have to use that as an opportunity and not see it as a threat. So that's kind of the PR side of it, and I'm going to open it back up for Jonas.
Agencies for correctional facilities. And they're having issues where they said, we're just, our whole strategy is not to even be on it at all. We don't even want to get on it. Well, somebody created a page for them. So, and they started posting for them, and it was a mess. And some of the other negative things that they were having go on with that was they'd have prisoners who were getting access to mobile devices and finding information on guards' families through social media, and actually threatening them, saying, we know your daughter, we know where she lives, we'll kill her if you don't cooperate with us. Just some really just terrible things that on the negative side that come through social media. And so that's the importance of a social media policy, educating your people on how to protect themselves in all those different areas. So now if you're scared to death of social media, nobody wants to to be on there. Let me flip the thing to the positive side. It's just as powerful as it can be negatively. There is some negative things that you have to protect yourself. There's a very offensive strategy that you can have too. The world's changing. The communication is changing. It's much more this 2.0 communication where it's a two-way street. And what it's done for big business and small businesses is leveled the playing field, because now marketing is no longer whoever has the most bucks. It's whoever has the best strategy and can get in there and make some changes. So one of the things I wanted to bring up was one of our clients, the Station Burger. They're a burger joint in Paducah, Kentucky. For a budget of under $500, we worked with them, and when you Google Best Burger in Paducah, you can see where they show up. All this was done through a Facebook strategy, and I'll show you one more demonstration. Find the Best Burger in Paducah.
Sorry, Charles, something's wrong.
Apparently serious. Find the Best Burger in Paducah.
I found 6 burger restaurants.
It doesn't speak Western redneck, so the top one that comes up, Station Burger. Under that, Backyard Burger, Burger King. And this is a local company with a small budget that's competing and getting top rankings ahead of McDonald's and Backyard Burger and Burger King. So all these big spenders, you know, when somebody's driving along the interstate and they say, find the best burger in Paducah, Burger King's not showing up, Dairy Queen's not showing up. It's a local company. So what that means is that big businesses have to change their strategy, because they can't just outspend the little guy anymore. They have to really have the best strategy for engaging with their target market. The biggest thing for me, let me pull this up and we will get started, is helping people communicate with their target market. It is so much less about pushing a product or a service and so much more about building a relationship with potential clients, customers, and all those different things that you have. So let me go back here. It looks like we're at the end. All right, so when we sit down with a client, we'll listen first. We always come in ears first and say, what are you trying to accomplish, and what product or service do you have that is great? Because the common misperception about social media is that social media will make your company great. Well, no, it won't. It only is a bullhorn for great companies. If you don't have great service, if you don't have great products, social media can be an absolute disaster for you. So you, first and foremost, the company and the brand has to be strong. You have to have good service, good product, be very relationship-centered with your market. But what we find more and more is we really gear people towards web marketing, and the reason is that's where the market is. There's so many people on there these days. The average U.S. Internet user spends 32 hours a month online. Average Facebook user spends 7 hours, 45 minutes a month. It's over 1 billion searches a day on Google. And one of the biggest things for us, especially for small business, is it's easy to measure the ROI. I can't see the analytics on a billboard a lot of times. You know, it's just, I mean, you really have to dig. So, but you can measure your touches. You can measure who's seen this and who hasn't, and who, you can actually find out whether it was a male who's seen it. That was 30 to 50. You can find out whether that person liked, burgers or whatever it might be. You can find those things. So it's very, it gives you some great information and feedback. These are just a few statistics, and y'all know a lot of these things, but one of the numbers that really stood out to me is that if you added up all the time that people spend online a month, it would equal 4 million years worth of time. That's how much time each month is spent online. It just blows me away. And this is how people are spending their time. You can see the top thing there is social networking. It's just an absolute phenomenon, the way this has changed the way we communicate with each other. So, very interesting. So, again, like Dana said, there's not a lot of time to get into every single platform. So I just want to share some just general philosophies and things, just mindsets and paradigm shifts on what social media can do. New marketing is about the relationship, not the medium. So social media isn't a fad, it's a fundamental shift in the way we communicate. So much more now, it's conversation. It is talking back and forth. It's finding out about your market, how you can become better. You know, even negative feedback is good because you get to find out what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and how do we become a great company. And this has given the world a better tool to really gauge where they're at and see kind of what the world really thinks about them. Seth Godin, he is an absolute marketing genius. I love all of this stuff. That the value of a customer, selling to people who actually want to hear from you, is more effective than interrupting strangers who don't. In this technology-driven world that we live in, there is so much noise now. There's so much going on, and it's harder and harder to compete as a company in your marketing and communicating with your target market because it's just, with technology, we've actually been able to now ignore some of those things. You have TiVo. You know, sometimes you can fast forward through things. A lot of times when you're driving, you're looking at a bill. You know, you're checking your Facebook versus looking at the billboard. Some people are, not me. I don't do that. You know, just but one of the things that we really try to talk to our customers about is let's shift the focus from transactions in our product and shift it to the relationship that you have with your customer, because that's the real value. The value is not in, you know, this is an example used for small business. It's not in the $50 sale. It's not, oh, I sold a widget for $50. Well, you made $50, and yes, that affects your bottom line. But if you gain a new customer, that customer may spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, you know, over a lifetime or whatever, you know, depending on the industry, with your company over that time. So the value is in building a relationship and doing things the way, you know, that appeals to those people and those customers that are in your target market. So kind of some of the bullet points here: product centered, non-personal, it's short term. It's buy my product, buy my product. This is, no, let's build a relationship, and how can my product or service help serve you as a customer? It's a very long-term strategy. So traditional marketing. I am not one of the people that say traditional marketing is done. I do not believe that at all. I think that it is, we use it. I use it myself. I just think that it has some things that you have to work against. Again, like I said, it's disrupted a lot of times by, you know, TiVo, or, you know, I've got an iPod. If I want to listen to music, I'll just download it. You know, those different things. And so what I found for traditional marketing, you want to put those things out, and you want to put those you know, billboards, television, radio, all those things. But it should funnel people into some of these new media marketing so that you can begin to build that relationship and really strengthen that relationship with them. If you put $1,000 in a billboard, it'll go up. People will drive by it, see it, you might get some sales. But once it goes down, then nobody sees it and they're back to their life, and that investment is sometimes lost for small businesses. That's what we come up against. So a lot of times what we say is, yes, do the billboard, but funnel them to Facebook. That way when that thing's down, then you have a place where you can engage with them again and again. And that's one of the good things about new media marketing, is it gives you a chance. It's permission-based, it's relationship-driven, it's giving people an opportunity to communicate and have a relationship with your brand. It is amazing what you can learn and how you can improve as a company and really become great in that. So what, again, you know, social media marketing doesn't replace traditional marketing. Don't believe that at all. New media marketing is the future, though. This is more and more. It's on the increase. And your traditional marketing should feed your new media connections. What we do is we'll usually sit down and we'll say, okay, what are you doing with marketing right now? And how can we incorporate social media into that so that you can begin the conversation with your target market? So a lot of times we'll sit down and they may say, we're doing radio, we're doing television, we have some print ads, and we say, okay, what are you doing with web? And what we'll try to do is we'll say, you know, a lot of times the analogy I use is radio is sometimes like your Air Force. You're laying this ground coverage, and then social media is like the ground force that goes in and begins to take on the market that you're going with. So all of it a lot of times becomes very overwhelming. So always try to kind of dial it back down and say, okay, you don't have to be on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Vine, Instagram, Pinterest, all these different platforms. You don't have to be on them all, but you do need to try to make a step towards one or two of these. And you got to decide which one of these is the most beneficial for my business. And that's what a lot of times we'll sit down. Success is on those small efforts repeated day in and day out. Starting small, that is the way to do it. It is better to do one or two of these platforms really well than a bunch of them poorly. Is that right, Dana? And so, again, it's all about relationships. So making it happen is really, it starts with telling your story. People are engaged with stories. They're engaged with what is unique thing about your brand, about your organization. What do you offer that your competition maybe doesn't? And how do you begin to draw people into the story of your business and become excited about what you're excited about? It's very important to be consistent with what you do. Whatever strategy you go with and whatever direction you go with your brand, you have to make that consistent with social media as well, whether it's with your images, whether it's with your wording, with the voice that you use in your writing. You have to have all of those things, and you don't just jump in without a strategy. You really have to put that strategy in place with goals and timelines and measure and evaluate that progress. That's one of the great things about social media is the analytics, and we don't have time to go into it all today, but it is incredible, the feedback of what you can find out, what's working and what's not. And what I found a lot of times is we use that data even to help people with their traditional marketing. If we see, hey, this is getting some great response, then we can take those and put those in print ads and all those other platforms. So that's all very important, and I've tried to get through this pretty quick so we leave. We've got 4 minutes, okay. So that we can move on to some Q&A. But again, I know, Dana's in education, and I'm in marketing for businesses, and y'all are in a much different field. So there's a lot of things that, that what we're saying is not exactly what you need, because it's different industries. But the thing with social media is it's all so new. There's really no experts. I would say me and Dana would not claim to be experts. We're all students of it. And that's one of the exciting things for us that we really enjoy about it is you get to get creative with what you're doing with social media and how you use it as an organization. But it is an incredible tool that is worth the attention of any company, small or big. It really is something that is changing the way we communicate with our target market. So I think that's it. This is our company. You can find us at sociallypresent.com. If we do a 1-hour consultation for free to start out with anybody who's interested in those things to find out more. And a lot of times in those meetings you can have more specifics of what do you do, and we can try to talk about what kind of strategy would work for you and your company. So I guess it. Questions?